43 seconds left. That can't be right, can it? No. All right, OK. One of the things that we've seen happen is, especially in local government, in that sustainability has become a thing about ticking boxes. There's no fun in the Code for Sustainable Homes. It's about, it's about another tick box, like we have in education, like we have, and you lose, and often you lose the reason why we're doing it, and the reason, and also the bloody will to live. Sometimes going through that, and to me, it's always the last thing that I look at. How many people here? Well, you're not going to say that now because I spoilt it. Is it? How many people here are from local authorities who are involved in delivering housing? So quite a few. How many of you is the Code of Sustainable Homes a very important thing that you have to look at every housing? Are they getting there? Yeah. And would you say that's probably one of the most important things?
No, not at all.
Yeah. What's more important?
Investing in existing housing.
OK, so let's say a developer. Can you hear what she said? Oh, I better not. It doesn't work that. So we'll do it at the. We can do this when they're passing a mic around after. So we'll do it then, and then they can hear. I'm not going to go on about that. This is the kind of thing that we have up on our wall at Hemingway Design, and what is our mantra for whenever we're delivering sustainability. And it is about livability. Now, it sounds like a hippie, something that's a bit hippie. And I'm going through this at the moment. To some people, it sounds like it's hippie, because how do you tick boxes about livability? I'm chair of this thing called Building for Life. How do you tick boxes about building for life? And some of you will know the spat that's going on between CABE and Homes and Communities at the moment. And I know who's totally in the wrong, and it's Homes and Communities. And because livability is not about ticking boxes. Sustainability, only a small part of it can be about ticking boxes. If we think that we've won by getting to Code 6, then think again, because the most unlivable housing in Britain could end up being Code 6. Some of the most unlivable housing being built in Britain right now that is getting kickstart money is Code 4. And my God, are we going to be pulling them down in 20 years? And then you start working out the embedded energy of what we're doing, and just by ticking those boxes just doesn't work. And more about that later. Anybody who said, does anybody here look at the world's livability indices when they're looking at regeneration or anything to do with what they're doing in their councils? One person, two people down here. I genuinely will say it's the most important thing that we ever look at. If you think the first one I showed you was from a magazine called Monocle magazine, which, not massive. But it also is measured by The Economist, Business Week, FT, and various. So if you go into Wikipedia and type in the world's most livable or the livable cities indexes, you'll see how it's measured. And if you follow how that's measured, you can let that seep into all of the things that you do when you're doing housing, when you're doing regeneration of shopping centres or whatever. It's all there, and it really does explain it. One of my favourite pictures about livability is that one there. That's the world's most livable city at the moment in 3 of those indices is Copenhagen. Has anybody been there recently? Does anybody disagree that it's a great place? Because if you do, chirp up after this when we've got the mics going around. To me, it most certainly is the most livable city in the world. And this picture here sums it up. You could look at it and you could think about the canals and you could think about some amazing architecture. But what that picture shows is what they've got. That is obviously an old street, but they've retrofitted that street and they've made it into a street. I'd be quite happy being that. I'm looking forward to being a granddad. I'm not that far off now. I'm looking forward to being that. I'd be quite happy being that chap there with the grandchild kicking a football in the street outside my house. Imagine that was my son. I'd feel safe. I don't even have to look because my son's going off safe on his bike. When my son's out of sight and the daughter-in-law has gone off to work, I can take my little grandson into the shop on the left-hand side there and buy him some sweets that the daughter-in-law doesn't allow him. And all of that is happening in a street that's Could we build that? And then that's a new version of it, a few streets along in Copenhagen, which is almost a mirror, apart from the architecture's different. Can you think of any streets that we're building like that in the UK at the moment? Why aren't we building them? Because we're stupid. No, is there another reason why we're not building them?
Because highways dictate.
Highways wouldn't allow. Is there any other reasons? Apart from highways? Yeah. So we don't live like that because we're so different than our European partners, because we don't like neighbours? We want... Is that it? We've gone that far down the line that's what we believe, that we don't live like that anymore. And I think that's really sad. Because I like people. And I... You know, the reason I'm here is to be happy and not to be... There are some people who are recluses, you know, and sad bastards, most of them. There's another reason why we can't do that, because in planning law, be overlooking. The Victorians invented curtains. This is something I did go to college, unlike Geraldine, and I studied geography and town planning under Sir Peter Hall. And I remember him showing me this one on the left here, the Appleyard study of livable streets, which shows, I know you can't see it from right back there, but it shows that in a lightly trafficked street, you get 3 friends per person and 6.3 acquaintances, and in a heavy, it's 0.9. And, you know, it's obviously in a heavy traffic street, you have less friends and less acquaintances. That's the new one that's just been done in Bristol, which you can, if you just type in livable streets in Bristol, by Bristol University, you'll see it's just exactly the same, although a bit more detailed. And again, I think, why am I here? Well, it's to have friends, it's to have acquaintances. For most of us, it's like that. There will always be somebody who wants to shut themselves away. But I would hazard a guess, if you walk down Oxford Street after this, or anywhere around here, and stopped 1,000 people and gave them a list of what's important to them, would it be solitude, community, friends? I'll tell you what would come on top. The word community would be very high, friends would be very, very high, and solitude and being in a hut in Wales somewhere would be good for a couple of weeks. I want to live it. To me, that's a livable place, for many reasons. And one of the reasons that I enjoy going to some European cities is because of that. Take it whichever way you want. To me, that's livability. You know, the idea that we... How slow have we been at putting community infrastructure in? You know, we can make community gyms, outdoor gyms, that cost £1,000 for the maximum for a piece of equipment, that don't rust in this climate, that mean that you don't have to join a gym. That means that you meet people outside and you go into a space. And where they are, I don't know if... Have anybody been to the ones that are starting to pop up in London now? You can't get on them. It works. You can't get on them not because they're rusted and they don't work, because people are using them and getting out there. But this is, you know, communal barbecues, outdoor gyms. They've been doing it for 15, 20 years in Northern Europe, and in Australia a lot longer. I know they've got more of a climate to do that. But why is it taking us so long? Why? The only reason can be, it's not the public, it's us. It's councils, it's members, it's inertia. And some of these things don't cost much money. They cost so much less than the Code for Sustainable Homes. They probably cost less in terms of time that you spend poring over that. And yet, if you give somebody a place that they're happy to live in, they'll make their place more sustainable. They won't get in their car. They'll do all sorts of things that you know about. It's not just about the carbon efficiency of that house. And they'll settle, and gradually they'll make that house more carbon efficient, like we all do when we live in a house longer and longer, because it makes economic sense. This is one of the things that got me in trouble a few years ago when we were doing the national housing audit at Cabe, which I don't know, we probably did that about 4 or 5 years ago, and I went round taking loads of pictures of shit housing, basically. and this was one being built by Barratt's. If anybody's on a train heading out of London to Swindon, Wales direction. Look out the right-hand side when you get into Swindon Station. Obviously, if you're coming back, sit on the left-hand side and look at it and weep.